I always knew looking back on my tears would bring me laughter, but I never knew looking back on my laughter would make me cry. If you want to sing out, and if you want to be free, 'cause there's a million ways to be. You know that there are. Music can be healing, and with my history and my knowledge of both sides, of what looks like a gigantic divide in the world, I feel I can point a way forward to our common humanity again. I've been smiling lately, dreaming about the world as one, and I believe it could be someday. It's gonna come. If you want to be free, boo baby, it's a wild world. It's hard just to get by upon a smile. To be what you want to be, you must give up being what you are. Life is a journey, and a lot of journeys. You go out, you come back. Music is a lady that I still love, because she gives me the air that I breathe. We need all sorts of nourishment, and music satisfies and nourishes the hunger within ourselves for connection and harmony. Islam is not just a religion. Islam is everything. Say what you think what you mean. The very first lesson that I learned from the Quran was the message of unity and peace. Everything made so much sense. This is the beauty of the Quran. It asks you to reflect and reason. When I read the Quran further, it talked about prayer, kindness, and charity. I was not a Muslim yet, but I felt the only answer for me was the Quran, and God had sent it to me. This is the beauty of the Quran. It asks you to reflect and reason, and not to worship the sun or moon, but the one who has created everything. The Quran asks man to reflect upon the sun and moon, and God's creation in general. Peace Train is a song I wrote, the message of which continues to breeze thunderously through the hearts of millions. There is a powerful need for people to feel that gust of hope rise up again. In a world where people are surrounded by darkness, ignorance, and fear, it is a sign of hope to be celebrating Islam's message of peace and light, and the last great messenger, born and chosen to deliver them to all mankind. There is a powerful need for people to feel that gust of hope rise up again. In the early days, I had a very black and white view of everything. I think that's kind of natural for anyone who's just embraced Islam, or any religion, as a convert. It was important for me to duck out of the fast and furious life I'd been living as a pop star. I was in a different mood. The verses talked about other prophets as brothers preaching the same unifying script of mankind, showing every man and woman the way to paradise. I saw the names of Jesus, of Moses, of Abraham, of Jacob, of Noah, and of course, crucially, the name of this last messenger, the last messenger of God, Muhammad. The greatest legacy is that which benefits the widest number of people for the longest period without limit to value. No one but the Prophet Muhammad was given that role as the seal of God's message. The fact that the Prophet cared for every human being and tried his best to ensure their security in the hereafter must be the most telling of his compassionate and merciful characteristics. It is part of my faith as a Muslim to try to help those who are suffering from poverty or economic or political injustice. Sun is the reason in the world it will bloom, 'cause sun lights the sky, and the sun lights the moon. The spiritual quest was always the predominant aspect of my life. It's always been there. But there's also an incredible passion connected to it. It's not just a dry, investigative process. I have been extremely emotional about it, and that comes out in the songs. They have hijacked my religion. Positive thoughts and prayer have been the best means available since the beginning of time to transform darkness to light. If you want to be you, be you. After embracing Islam in 1977, I considered the majority of underprivileged, dark-skinned people of the so-called third world brothers and sisters in humanity. From the moment I could talk, I was ordered to listen. Love heats my blood. Blood spins my head, and my head falls in love. A flight from London carrying the artist we all used to know as Cat Stevens, now known as Yusuf Islam, was forced to make an emergency landing in Bangor. Maine, after his name, showed up on a terrorist no-fly list. I tell you, it's a real success story in the war on terror. You know, we finally got the guy that wrote Peace Train. I've returned to being an amateur without any ties or strings attached, which gives me a freedom I never had before. Communal, well, being is central to human life. Some extremists take elements of the sacred scriptures out of context. All the songs that were written for that album are just all our first sophomore songs. So they're all from real life. Very sweet and very innocent. I think the theme of the album probably was just that it was our first record. Back when we were first making records. You didn't just make the music. You put a great deal of energy into the way it looked, and every word that was written on the whole thing. Life is a maze of doors, and they all open from the side you're on. Just keep on pushing hard, boy. Try as you may. You're gonna wind up where you started from. Don't you feel a change, a coming from another side of time, breaking down the walls of silence, lifting shadows from your mind? If you want to be free, because there's a million things to be. I've studied various schools of thought. I acknowledge that some Muslims consider music prohibited, but I've found a lot of evidence from the life of the Prophet to show that he allowed, certainly, but even encouraged, music at certain times. Ever since I became a Muslim, I've had to deal with attempts to damage my reputation and countless insinuations seeking to cast doubt on my character and trying to connect me to causes, concepts, or sayings which I do not and would never willfully subscribe to. I was brought up in the modern world of all the luxury and the highlight of show business. I was born into a Christian home. It's very difficult to ignore humanitarian disasters. The royalties from my albums continue to support my charity work. When many astronauts go to space, They see the insignificant size of the earth and vastness of space, and they become very religious because they have seen the signs of Allah. I enjoy life. I think I'll enjoy death even more. Life is too confusing. I'm not the best of you, but I'm not the worst either. And if my mind breaks up in all so many ways, I know the meaning of the words. I love you to be calm when you found something going on. Man is created to be God's deputy on earth, and it is important to realize the obligation to rid ourselves of all illusions and to make our lives a preparation for the next life.